Talk Radio.
Me Chama Afurakani Afuraitkaitnit Neye AKANFO NANASOM Da Me Dinde Ojirafo Kwesi Kemet and Akan Akwamu Amaruka Etivi Mu Ojirafo Ojiramain Mu. That means greetings to all Afurakani Afuraitkaitnit people, meaning Africans, black people. Today is AKANFO NANASOM Day, Ancient, Authentic, Akan, Ancestral Religion Day. My name is Ojirafo Kwesi Akan, Ojirafo of the Akwamu Nation in North America, within Ojiraman, the purified nation, Afurakani Afuraitkaitnit people in the Western Hemisphere. Yet I say we thank you for tuning in once again to the broadcast. We're going to post a couple of links in the chat room. For the individuals who are new to the broadcast, we have 3 broadcasts on a weekly basis. On Joda, Monday nights, we have AKANFO NANASOM, Ancient, Authentic, Akan, Ancestral Religion, where we deal specifically with the Akan expression of ancestral religion, clarifying concepts, clarifying philosophy, cosmology, ritual practice, the nature of the Great Mother and Great Father, Nyame wa Nyame, Amenet, Amen, the Supreme Being, the nature of the Abosom, the divinities, the nature of the Nananom, Nsamanfo, the spiritually cultivated ancestors and ancestors in their relationship to us, and various different aspects of the culture. There's a great deal of misinformation being propagated in the Western Hemisphere, as well as from the continent of Afuraitkaitnit regarding Akan, ancestral religion, spirituality, philosophy, cosmology. So we clarify the record. On Abenada Tuesday night, we have Ojira, which means purification. We deal with ancestral religion in general, not just the Akan expression, but Afurakani Afuraitkaitnit ancestral religion, African ancestral religion in general, and how it impacts every aspect of our lives, every thought, intention, and action. Ancestral religion, in essence, is the ritual incorporation of divine law and the ritual restoration of divine balance. That means through ritual, we incorporate those things, objects, deeds, and entities we need to incorporate in order to harmonize our thoughts, intentions, and actions with divine order, and through ritual to our lives by rejecting those things, objects, deeds, and entities we need to reject in order to restore balance to our thoughts, intentions, and actions, and therefore realign ourselves with order. So the expansive and contractive poles of ancestral religion, of Nanasom, which is our term for ancestral religion in general, is the ritual incorporation of divine law and the ritual restoration of divine balance. And as we say, Ojira, or purification, operationalizes Nanasom. Purification operationalizes our practice of ritually incorporating law and ritually restoring balance. So we deal with ancestral religion in general and how it impacts every aspect of our lives. Every thought, intention, and action, every moment of every day is governed by our capacity to ritually incorporate law and ritually restore balance so we can align our thoughts, intentions, and actions so we can make proper decisions on a daily to moment basis that is in harmony with divine order. We have the capacity to achieve that through the agency of our ancestral religion. So, of course, there's misinformation coming from the whites and their offspring, as well as people in our community who've been brainwashed by the whites and their offspring with regard to our cosmology, our culture, the nature of ancestral religion, the nature of the Supreme Being, the Great Mother, the Great Father, the nature of the deities, the nature of the ancestors and ancestors. A great deal of foolishness being propagated. Of course, in our book, Kukutuntun, the Ancestral Jurisdiction, we proved that Jesus and Moses and Muhammad and Abraham and Isaac and Ishmael and Allah and Yahweh and Brahman and Buddha and all these characters are fictional cartoon characters who never existed of any race or in any form whatsoever. But we also deal with in our other publications various aspects of ancestral religious practice. We have 17 books out, over 60 articles, nearly 185 broadcasts dealing with this information in detail. So we go into detail and dissect this information and bring it to the fore. So misinformation coming from not only traditional pseudo-religion, like Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Hinduism, Taoism, Buddhism, and so forth. But then the pseudo-metaphysical, pseudo-spiritual, pseudo-esoteric so-called paradigm, that misinformation as well, whether it's Moorishism or extraterrestrialism or Kabbalism or Hermeticism or Gnosticism or any iteration of these foolish pseudo-spiritual practices, we crush all of that nonsense as well. Atheism, all of that foolishness. No matter how people try to blacken up these foolish practices and beliefs, all of them come from the whites and their offspring, and some of our people are brainwashed. We simply blacken up the idiocy of the whites and their offspring. So we deal with that kind of information and clarify concepts, clarify cosmology, clarify ritual practice, clarify the nature of our ancestral religious practice being born of our blood circles, carried with us in the womb and into the world. So we are born with an ancestral religious practice rooted in our clan that's assigned to us pre-incarnation. When we enter into the womb, we have already been assigned to specific abosom, specific orishas, specific vodou, specific divinities, and specific ancestresses and ancestors of a specific patriclan and matriclan. We're already assigned by the Supreme Being to them. So when we come into the womb, we are already coming into the womb with an ancestral culture and an ancestral religious practice, born of our blood circle. And that is unbroken no matter where we have migrated or were forced to migrate into the Western Hemisphere. So therefore, when we were forced into the Western Hemisphere, we continued our ancestral religious practices, and those who maintained those practices were motivated and empowered and guided by the abosom and nananom and samafo, the deities and ancestral spirits, to wage war against the whites and their offspring, crush them, defeat them, and force the end of enslavement in the Western Hemisphere. That was brought about through our direct blood ancestors and ancestors through their practices of hoodoo, which is the Akan tradition in North America, juju, which is the Yoruba tradition in North America, vodou, which is the Fon and Ebe tradition in North America, grigri, which is the Bambara tradition in North America. Various expressions of our ancestral religious practice were maintained in North America intact and up until this very moment. So we have our tradition. So we get into detail about that. On Awukuda, Akwada Wednesday night, we have Egua Marketplace Day. And on Egua Marketplace, we typically have individuals or groups who have started businesses, organizations, or institutions in the Afuraitkaitnit community, serving our community in a positive capacity while maintaining their ancestral religious values in the process. So they come onto the show and talk about their products and services. We also have shows where we deal with the ancestral religious approach philosophically to trade and commerce within our community. And in that vein, we have published the Economic Development Model, which is a model of economic development rooted in Afuraitkaitnit ancestral religious values. So you can go to the Economic Development Model page. You can download that model, and we will put the link in the chat room for that. And you can also see the links to the various businesses, organizations, and institutions that we have supported as a community through the Economic Development Model process. You also see the 4-part video series we did dissecting that model. Part of the model is to starve the beast and feed the prize. That is a strategy we use to reallocate resources. That means you make an assessment on a weekly basis to determine what funds you would have potentially wasted with the whites and their offspring, and then you starve the beast and feed the prize. Take those funds away from those white businesses and reallocate them to the business, organization, or institution of the week. We're targeting one Afuraitkaitnit business, organization, or institution per week for 52 weeks. We began that process in February, so we are nearly 3/4 of the way through the course of an entire year. And when you look on the page, you will see the list of businesses. You see their websites. You also see the links to their interviews where they sat for 2 hours with us to share the information about their journey and their business and so forth and their philosophy rooted in ancestral religious values. Each And you'll see that we target each one per week. The reason we're targeting one per week is for optimal capital infusion. If one person starves the beast and feeds the pride and takes the $10 or $15 they would have wasted with the whites and their offspring, reallocate that, starve that white beast, reallocate that $15, those funds to feed the pride, the business of the week, the organization of the week, the institution of the week. One person engaged in that process is reallocating $15. When 1,000 people engage in that process, then that's a reallocation of $15,000 to a black business away from white businesses. That allows them to stay open, expand, serve us at a greater capacity, hire people within our community, and so forth. If we do not engage that process, we finance our own oppression by default, financing our absolute enemies, the whites and their offspring. White Europeans, white Americans, white Hispanics, white Latinos, white Arabs, white Hindus, white Asians, white pseudo-Native Americans, all non-black people. The whites and their offspring are absolute enemies without exception. So this is why we deal with Egua Marketplace and the home economic development model. Now, before we get started, a couple of announcements. We have a couple of events coming up. If you look on our on our NHOMA page, the publications page, you'll see the list of our publications. We have 17 books out now. The ebook versions are free. The softcover versions we do sell as well. They range between $8 and $11. One of the publications is Crocodile, talking about dissexuality, homosexuality was never accepted in ancient Kemet, and we prove that through the various texts that we deal with in that publication. We will be having a presentation in the D.C. area on November 15th, which is an Akwesi Da, a Sunday, November 15th, the Crocodile movement, eradicating dissexuality, homosexuality from Afuraitkaitnit people from our community through ancestral religion. So through our practice of ancestral religion, we have the capacity to overcome all obstacles, including the perversity, the sexual deviant discordance of dissexuality, homosexuality, which is an agenda promoted by the whites and their offspring, waging war against our people. Of course, we have the capacity to overcome that and destroy the whites and their offspring and all of their propaganda and so forth. So we're going to do a presentation on that publication as well as dealing with the two broadcasts that we did on eradicating dissexuality, homosexuality from the Afuraitkaitnit community through ancestral religion. Our people have the capacity to overcome these negative influences, negative projections, not only from the white propaganda, the media, schools, magazines, music, so-called spiritual institutions, churches and mosques, and everything else, but also the discarnate, wayward, criminal-type spirits of deceased relatives and non-relatives who were criminals, who were child molesters, who were perverts and so forth. Once they make their transition, their perverted spirits are still hanging around trying to influence young children, older people. When people go through trauma, go through drug addiction, go through a number of different things, these perverse entities seek to influence, and of course through ancestral religion, people connecting with their own direct blood ancestresses and ancestors who are spiritually cultivated, they can remove those negative influences overnight. So, of course, people, Afuraitkaitnit people have done that all over the world for thousands of years, overcoming any obstacle that is presented to them, us, and of course, dissexuality, homosexuality, spiritual deviance, sexual deviance, spiritual discordance is just one of those minor obstacles that can be overcome through the practice of ancestral religion, people connecting with their direct blood ancestresses and ancestors. So we will be dealing with that on the Cocoa Ball November 15th. We will be giving away a free copy of the softcover version of our book, Cocoa Ball, that we will be presenting on to everyone who attends. Of course, as with all of our events, we do not charge an admissions fee for our presentations, lectures, workshops, conferences, and so forth. So this is a free event is a private event, but it's free and open to Afuraitkaitnit people only, Black people only, of course. Free event, and then we will give away one of our softcover books, the Crocodile book, free to everyone who attends the event. We do that with our events just in general. We've given away over 500 copies of our softcover book over the past year and a half plus, and we engage that process. A couple of weeks ago, well, a little bit over a week ago, when we had our Hoodoo Nation Festival, we were able to give away a copy of our Hoodoo Mind book that we just published right before the festival took place. We were able to give away a copy of that, a free copy of that, to everyone who attended the Hoodoo Mind, the Hoodoo Nation Festival. And with this event as well, we will be engaged in that process. That's November 15th. On November 7th, we will be in Montgomery, Alabama, talking about our book, Kukutuntun, the Ancestral Jurisdiction, the cosmology of Afuraitkaitnit, of creation. But then we also deal with the fictional cartoon characters, Jesus, Muhammad, Moses, Abraham, Isaac, Ishmael, Solomon, Sheba, Menelik, Buddha, Brahman, and all of these characters, proving that they never existed in any form or of any race whatsoever. So that information is on the website, will be done. Event notifications will continue to put that information out. So the Crocodile piece, that's part of a movement. It's not just one presentation, but we did a couple of broadcasts on that. We also have a GoFundMe campaign because these workshops will continue in different cities, and we would like to give away a free copy of the book proving that dissexuality, homosexuality was never accepted in Kemet, and talking about the cosmological foundation, divine prohibition against dissexuality, homosexuality found in our ancient ancestral culture and our cultures today, of course. So we would like to give a free copy of that book. Of course, all the people who attend this event in D.C., but wherever our people are in the country and around the world, we give away free books as much as we can. The softcover versions or the ebook versions are all free all the time for all 17 of our books, including Crocodile. But we like to give away the softcover versions whenever we can. So if you like to go to our GoFundMe page, any donation of $15 or more, we will send you one or more of our free books, one or more of our softcover books if you would like that as an option, as a thank you for making the donation. But any donation is helpful because we would like to get this softcover book in the hands of as many of our people as possible, whether our people are involved in culture or not. They need to know that dissexuality, homosexuality has no place within reality. Spiritually deviant, spiritually discordant, spiritually perverse, and is a weapon of warfare against our people waged by the whites and their offspring. And once they know what's really happening and understand the spiritual and cosmological foundation for dissexuality being criminality and perverse, then they're not controlled. So this book needs to be in the hands of every black person, male and female, young, children as well as adults. So we'd like to give away as many as possible, thousands of them we would like to give away. So we can only do that with the help of the community. We've given away over 500 books with the help of the community. So if you'd like to make a donation, you can go directly to our GoFundMe campaign with regard to that, and we'll put the link in the chat room for that. It's GoFundMe.com/Cocoball, same name of the book. And we like to say Yet I'll say for that. All right, so let us get into the topic for the show tonight. So we're talking about Akwamu, Gyaman, and the origin and meaning of the name. Couple of links out here that we posted in the event notification for this particular piece, and I just want to put those links in there real quick. There's a particular unpublished manuscript that we are going to release at some point this week, which is going to be part of a larger work, but we will release that information this week in a shorter article, just so people have access to it. But the information we go over tonight is coming from that publication that we are already working on right now, so you'll be able to get all of that information in detail. And let me put this link in here. One of the links, Akan Vocalizations of our ancestral language of Kemet. That's one link. And we will pull up the other link. And the other link is Kamet and the enslavement and restoration of the Afurakani Afuraitkaitnit in Amenti, the West. So we'll put that link up there as well. All right. All the publications you can get from the publications page on the website. So many people do not understand the origin or the meaning of the medutu, the hieroglyphs, or the term Kemet, which is a title of ancient, quote-unquote, misnomer Egypt, but of course we called it Kemet as well as other titles. Now, some people will see the medutu making up that name, and there are a couple of different variations. Some people will say, well, it's a burning piece of charcoal. Then other people will say, well, it's a crocodile's tail or a crocodile's paw. Kam is defined as black, burned, black, and so forth. It's terminology used in ancient Kemet. You find it in Coptic as well, the Coptic dialect, the late version of the language of Kemet and so forth. But then some people began to say, well, it doesn't really mean black. It just means cultivated land and nonsense like that, trying to take away the actual meaning of the term. And, of course, the whites and offspring would try to say, well, Kemet does not mean the black land, and Desert doesn't mean the red land, and so forth. In reality, Desert means the red land, which includes the desert. Kemet means the black land, which includes the fertile black soil. At the same time, Kemet means the black country that's governed by that black fertile strip. And Desert also means the red people, Kamal, the black people. I'm talking about dark brown people with black undertones. The Desheru are the dark brown people with red undertones. And we show images of examples of that in our document, Kamet Ori, talking about Alsar and Alset and so forth. So we went into some detail about that. We don't have to go over that too much, but just showing the reality that when we're talking about the skin of the individuals, we're talking about dark brown people with black undertones, dark brown people with red undertones. They manifest those quote-unquote complexions because of the energy governed by the abosome that governs them. And those red, fiery, hot divinities, they're governing certain people, certain groups. We manifest that kind of reddish energy, and it manifests through our skin color. It manifests through our temperament, but also through our skin color. The same thing with the cooler energy of the dark, black divinities. Then that manifests through our temperament, but it also manifests through the skin color. So you will see the black skin people, meaning dark brown with black undertones. You see the red skin people, dark brown with red undertones. You see the Maasai warriors and the Himba people and so forth. They not only use the red ochre and put it all over their skin and all over their hair, but they're dark brown people with red undertones. You see some people like the Wolof people and others. You see them with dark brown people with black undertones. In the Akan tradition, we have the same thing. We have, for example, amongst the Oyoko, Abusia, the Oyoko clan. In the Akan tradition, you have the Oyoko Koko and the Oyoko Tuntun, the red Oyoko and the black Oyoko. Dark brown people with red undertones, dark brown people with black undertones. You have Asase Koko, the red Asase or the red earth, and Asase Tuntun, the black Tuntun Asase, the black earth. And they have different properties and so forth, associated with different divinities. Associated with Obri, the black divinity, his name is Obri, the title of Alsar in reality. And then you have Anansi, Kweku Anansi, Awuku, and so forth, who's connected to the red earth. And this is why in Akan culture you have Awuku, Anansi, Kweku Anansi, and Akwesi Awusu, or Awusi Awusu, Alsar, and Anansi, or Alsar, and Awuku, a story about how Anansi, Kweku Anansi, the trickster, became the owner of the desert, the red land. And Kweku Anansi is actually Set, and he was in a conflict with Akwesi Awusu, which is Alsar, and Alsar, Akwesi Awusu, was given the fertile land by Nyokompon, the creator, and Anansi, the trickster, was given the desert land or the red land. It's the same story from ancient Kemet, so we went into some detail about that in a couple of the broadcasts. We just wanted to touch on that. So, of course, it's associated with skin color. It's associated with the color of the soil, the topsoil and the desert and the red land and so forth as well. But also it has to do with the character of the country based on the deities that govern the heads of the people, the clans, and so forth. So it's all interconnected. So now you have this term Kemet, Kam meaning black, and you have the image of the charcoal. So first we're going to get into, actually first let us look in, let me pull up this document real quick. Of course it is a burning piece of charcoal, but then you also have the representation of the tail of the crocodile and sometimes the paw of the crocodile. Let's talk about the crocodile first, very quickly. We understand that Alsar is called Kam Or, meaning the great or black one, Kam. He's also called Watch Or. Watch meaning green and Or meaning great, the great green one. That is a title of the deity Ki, which is the deity of the Mediterranean Sea. But Alsar also takes on that title in certain instances. You can see that in the Meru text, the pyramid text. He's called Watch Or, the great green, or Kam Or, the great black. Of course, when you look at Alsar in his depiction, you will see that sometimes he's painted with black skin and sometimes he's painted with green skin. He's Kam Or, the great black one, or Watch Or, the great green one. Skin color is what we're talking about, just as we talked about earlier. Kam does have something directly to do with the skin color of the people. So, when you're looking at, for example, the crocodile's tail, one of the terms for Kam means to complete, to finish, to come to an end, and so forth. Of course, the tail is the end of the body. It comes to an end, it's completion of the body. The foot, the paw is the end, the thing that is touching the ground. It's the bottom, quote unquote, of the animal. It's coming to an end and so forth. But it also has to do with Kam, talking about black. So that's one of the terms, Kam meaning black, but then one of the terms is, coming to an end. Now, when you look at the crocodile, in Akan culture, you have a proverb, Ebe, Odenchem da Ntiomo Nanso Ahome Mframa. The Odenchem, the crocodile, lives within water. However, he breathes air, not water. So, of course, that's pointing to the fact that the Odenchem, the crocodile, is living in an environment where everyone else surrounding him looks different than him and operates different than him. They're fish. They look different than him and they operate differently. They can breathe, quote unquote, underwater through their gills, where he's living in the same environment, surrounded by entities who do not look like him and do not function as him. But because he knows what his instinctive, innate culture is, he does not seek to breathe underwater like everybody else that's around him. He adheres to his own cultural identity, his own ancestral identity, and he seeks to get oxygen in the way that he is designed to get it. So he may live in the water, but he knows I must breathe air instinctively. So you see the crocodile swimming, his entire body is underwater except for the nostrils and the eyes. And you'll see just the head of the crocodile rise up. You see the nostrils and the eyes. And for those who don't know, it can be menacing at first when they see that head first rise up out of the water. Because at first there was just still water, and then they see the nose and the eyes, and they know this great, coming towards them, and so forth. That's very important, because when you see the rising of the head out of the water and breaking through the surface of the water, and we show an image of that on the promotional image for the show, what you're seeing is a rising up, which recalls the rising up of the primordial mound out of the waters of Nun and Nunet. So just like in the beginning, when the first raised land rose up from underneath the surface of the water to break through and become the first raised land, the first Ka'et in the creation of the universe, the first landmass upon which Ra operates through and Ra'et operates through, and Ra and Ra'et are called Afura and Afura'et. So when they move through that first landmass, that first Ka, they're called Afuraka and Afuraitkaitnit. So this is the origin of the term Africa and so forth, which we've proven in our book conclusively. The rising up of the primordial mound at the beginning of creation, as well as every year in Kemet. You see the rising up after the flood waters begin to recede. The first thing you see is the rising up, quote unquote, or what appears to be the rising up of mounds of earth, black mounds. That's because the water is receding and the black mounds appear. In the same fashion, when that crocodile begins to manifest out of the water, you see this dark mound appear. So it recalls the same kind of symbolism because it's reality. The crocodile's body can take on, in the sunlight and in the mud and so forth, and in the connection with the water, can take on a blackish or a greenish. We also recognize the reality that it was Sobek that helped to bring the body of Al-Sar to shore after Al-Sar drowns and so forth. And you'll see images in Dendera of Al-Sar, the mummy lying on the back of the crocodile as it's coming up out of the water. So he's bringing that black divinity, that black soil, up out of the water. Just like every year the black soil manifests and rises up out of the water, and the head of the crocodile rises up out of the water. Sometimes you see the tail rising up out of the water, and that's the manifestation of the Kam, the black earth manifesting out of the water. So, of course, that cosmologically, there's a reason why Kam can be represented by the black tail ending of the crocodile and the crocodile itself, even the black paw. When you see the rising crocodile, you see the rising of the black mound manifesting once again. So people who do not understand cosmology, they assume that either Kam must be a crocodile's paw or tail, or it has to be a piece of charcoal, but it can't be both. It has to be one or the other. That's when people follow the whites and their offspring. The whites and their offspring do not understand our culture, so of course they obfuscate and misinform deliberately. But then when Negroes worship the whites and their offspring and believe that they are the authorities on our ancestral culture, which of course the whites and their offspring are not and never could be, but when Negroes worship them and worship their foolish pseudo-scientific methods of inquiry, then they follow along with those who they worship, and they consistently put forward misinformation. But when you're actually involved in a living culture, you know exactly what these divinities are dealing with and what they represent, because they are real divinities. They still possess our people, communicate with our people, manifest through divination, and so forth. So we know who these deities are when we engage with the culture. And all of our people have the capacity to engage the culture in real time and engage with these same deities in real time. The same sun, the same moon, the same earth mother, the same atmosphere that our people lived under thousands of years ago, of course, is the same sun and moon and atmosphere and earth mother that we live under today and upon today. The same spirits that animate the sun and animate the moon and animate the earth mother and animate the atmosphere and animate the rivers and so forth are the exact same ancient spirits that animated them thousands of years ago. So just like we can be warmed by the sun today, it's the same sun that was warming our ancestresses and ancestors in ancient Kanat and Kemet. As we can be possessed by the spirits that animate the sun today, we still are getting possessed by the exact same spirits that possessed our people thousands of years ago. But we can still know, and we still do engage them on a regular basis and learn directly from them. We don't learn cosmology by following around some little cracker archaeologist who's poking around tombs and graves and so forth and commenting on the culture. Our people live the culture, birth the culture, and live the culture because they engage the abosom that undergirds the entire cosmology of the culture. So they know the culture through experience and life. They're not commenting on culture, they live the culture. And when we live the culture, we know the culture. The only experts in the culture are the people who live the culture, not some clowns running around commenting on the culture and manufacturing theory. So, now let's get to we'll tie in this whole notion of the crocodile and so forth, the paw. We're going to get into, which we did, but we're going to get into showing the connection between that and the charcoal. The flaming piece of charcoal that represents what is burning. And for the term calm and whites represent, connected to black and the black land, as well as the crocodile and so forth. It is all connected cosmologically, very easily seen. So we're going to look at the Akan language. In the Akan language, you will find the keys to that information. Not just the Akan language, you can look all over the continent, you'll find the keys to the information. Since, of course, we are Akan, we're going to show it in this fashion. But again, you can look all over the continent. Akan people come from ancient Kanat. One of the titles of ancient so-called Nubia or Sudan is Kanat, or the Kan land, the Kanit land, the first land, foremost land, the Kan land. And the people, the Kanat people, the Kanit people. And of course, we continue to call ourselves that when we migrated away from ancient Kanat, Nubia, and Kemet after the fall of Kemet, reestablished the empire of Kanat, or so-called Ghana, in the western part of the continent a couple of thousand years ago. After Muslim invasion, some of our people migrated further south towards the forest belt about 1,000 years ago and reestablished Akana civilization in the regions of what is today called Cote d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast, and the Republic of Ghana. And then a few hundred years after that, some of our people were taken from there. During the enslavement era, Musuo Kessier, the great perversity, the enslavement era, forced into North, Central, and South America, the Caribbean, and Europe during that forced migration. And this is how some of us ended up in this region as Akan people coming from Akana civilization, coming from Empire of Ghana, and ultimately from the ancient Kanat civilization, ancient Sudan, ancient Nubia, and so forth. So, when you look at the Akan people, look at the language, you will find these representations, you will find this symbolism, you will find these terms, and they all mean the same thing in the language of ancient Kemet, as well as in Akanat, of course, and in our Akan culture today. We've already proven in our publications on the Akradim Bosom and others in our book that the same deities that we worshipped in ancient Kanat and Kemet, Akan people still worship them by the same name today. Whether you're talking about Amen and Amenet and Ra and Ra'ed and Yonkumpon and Yonkunton, which is Ra and Ra'ed, Atim, Asase Nebet Tepet, Asase Nebet Pet, Kepra, Alsar, Alset, Set, Nebet Het, Heru, Heru Bedesi, Sekhmet, Ptah, all these various divinities and more still exist in the Akan culture, language, and are worshipped today by Akan people, and we are named after them. So, we've shown the different aspects of the spiritual anatomy, like the Ba and the Ka and the Sahu and the Sa and different aspects of the spiritual anatomy all exist in the Akan language by the same name still today. It's still spoken and used today. We've done broadcasts on that. So, now we're going to get into this term. Let's look in the language. And the reason we talked about Akwamu and Gyaman, as we'll get into, the Akwamu people were major Akan group, just like the Asante and Fanti, Akwamu, and many others. Out of the Akwamu people, a smaller subgroup came out of them. They became known as the Chama people, Gyaman nation of the Chama people, or Chama people, or Kama people. And we're going to get into that. Let's look into the language. Just as Kemet was born out of Kanat, Egypt being born out of Nubia, the same thing happened when we migrated west, and out of the larger Akan group, the Akana group, you'll have the smaller group, the Chama people, coming out of that. In our article, we're going to look at some terms from ancient Kemet and compare them with terms from the Akan language. First, the term Cha is spelled with the K-H-A-A. Sometimes they'll use the H with the mark under it, but it's the K-H symbol. It can be in church, or the Ka sound in Ki. Just like the CH letter combination in English, like CH for change, but then CH for character, the ch sound and the k sound is very similar in ancient Kemet. And you'll find the same thing in the Akan language. In the Akan language, you have the KY combination that represents that same symbol, the ch for the k sound, but you also have the GY letter combination that represents that ch sound as well. So when you look in the language of ancient Kemet, the term spelled and pronounced cha, K-H-A-A, cha, to leave, to forsake, to abandon. Now let's look in the Akan language. Cha means to leave, to forsake, to desert, to abandon. That's very important. Cha, or cha, K-H-A-A, cha, meaning to leave or forsake in ancient Kemet, abandon. Cha in Akan, meaning to leave, to forsake, reject, abandon. Same word in both languages. What's important with regard to that, as we build up to this definition, is there are two variations of that spelling in Coptic, in the Coptic dialect. You have the ka, or the cha, in the ancient dialect, to forsake, to leave, and so forth. In Coptic, you have two versions. You have the cha version, which is the symbol that looks like an X, and it has the cha sound, and then the symbol for the off, so cha. But then you will have the other version with the Coptic letter or character for the K sound, the k sound, and the off sound. So you have the ka, it's pronounced that way, but it's also written cha. So it's just like in English, the CH can be here in Coptic. This term meaning to leave or to forsake is cha, but also ka, both. And then we show in Akan, cha is also meaning the exact same thing. Next, why is that important? Let's go to the next term from ancient Kemet. Here we have similar term with the proper vocalization is cha or ka, meaning fire, flame, heat, to burn. The symbol, the KH, they stick an E in between because they didn't know what the vocalization was. And then they put the T, so it looks like ket or chet, but it's actually cha. How do we know that? Cha. Why should it be cha instead of chet or ket? Cha meaning to burn, fire, flame. In Akan, cha means to burn, fire, flame, and so forth. Fire. So cha in ancient Kemet meaning fire, flame, heat, to burn, or cha in Akan meaning fire and flame and so forth. So we have in the Akan language the proper vocalization, the proper vowel placement. We also show one meaning to leave, forsake, abandon in ancient Kemet. Then you have cha meaning to leave, forsake, abandon in Akan. Now you come to the next word, cha, with the proper vocalization, fire, flame in Kemet, and you have cha meaning fire, flame in Akan. Why is that important? Because the word kam is also written cham, like in Kemet, cham. There's a variation of it, which is cham, K-H-A-M. K-H-A-M, cham, which can also be kam, means burning, hot. And then, of course, in Coptic, it's kem, or kemom, and kam, and so forth, burning, hot, cham. Now, in the Akan language, cham means burning, hotly, fire, and so forth. It is comprised of cha, which means fire, and then the sound, mu, chammu, which is fire, cha, mu with n. Cham, fire, cha, mu with n. That's in Akan. So mu or meaning within in Akan. When you look at the medutu in ancient Kemet, the symbol for the letter M, means in or interior or within. So cha means fire, means within, cham or kam means the fire within. That's in ancient Kemet. The fire, cha or ka, within. When you say your lips are closed and the air is coming up as well as the energy coming up through the mouth and circulating within the mouth. The air is within the mouth. That's why means within. Of course, womb comes from that because you're replicating the sound of the energy circulating inside the womb, within the area of the womb. So cha, meaning fire, within. Cham or kam, the fire within. Burning, hot. That's in ancient Kemet. Then you also have cham, kam, in Akan, meaning the fire, cha, mu, within. Then we have another variation of that, kam, burning, heat, fire, hot, fever, and so forth in ancient Kemet. Then you have another variation, kem, not with the A, but kem, meaning to be hot, to be dry, to burn. Then in Akan, you have another variation. Instead of cham, you have chem, and it means the same thing, into the fire. So you have both versions in Akan, cham and chem, talking about fire, burning within, and so forth. And in ancient Kemet, you have both versions, kam and chem, meaning fire, hot, burning, fire within. Now, that's with the KH, but then remember in Coptic, the KH symbol is also interchangeable with the K symbol. So chum and cham, meaning fire within, burning within. There's also kam and kem, meaning fire, burning within. Both languages, same term. Now we get down to the term we're looking for. Kam, with the K, burning piece of charcoal, and it means to be black. Then you look at the actual medutu and a large image of the medutu, and we actually, when you look at the promo image for the show, we show one of the medutu, one of the symbols, a big burning piece of charcoal, and that kam, meaning to be black. What is it talking about? It's talking about fire within. If you're talking about just fire, that's just fire, cha, or ka. But then fire within, that means the fire is within something. That means it's burning. And when it's burning something, then the something becomes black. That's the association of the fire within. Kam or cham, fire within in ancient Kemet. Cham, fire within in the Akan language. So you look at the word kam as in Kemet, kam meaning black. And then later on, when you look at the rest of them, it'll say Kemet, meaning the black country, and then you have other things like a black buckle or black cow or black this or black that. Kam or the great black and all these different things. It's all dealing with black because it's talking about not just fire. Fire is the flame, but when the fire is starting to burn something, it's burning within and it becomes black. So they use a piece of charcoal to indicate that something is burning within. When you fire up the charcoal, and you get some charcoal and put fire to it, then it begins to burn within. You see that orangish glow within the charcoal because it's heated up and it starts to glow, so to speak. It's the fire, cha or ka, within. Kam, and then of course kamet is derived from that. And in Akan it's the same thing. And this is why in Akan you have the term cha and chama. And what does that mean? It means anthracite. It means coal. It means smithy, coal, charcoal. The same term, cham, meaning fire within in Akan, is also the same term for coal and charcoal. Just like in ancient Kemet, the term kam, talking about to burn, heat, fire, fire within, is also represented by a burning piece of charcoal. Word with the exact same pronunciation, the exact same meaning, but most importantly, the exact same symbol. And it's not just an abstract symbol, it's reality. It's the black charcoal being burned within, containing the fire within. Because the fire is within, then the thing becomes black. When you have a flame, it's just burning, it's a white flame. When you put it to some food, like a meat or a vegetable or something like that, and it begins to burn, if you will let it continue to burn, It'll burn all the way through, burn out all of the moisture and so forth until the vegetable becomes a black piece of carbon burnt as a crisp. And that's what's left behind. All of the water or the moisture has been burned out of it, and what's left behind, that's why cha means left behind, forsaken, and so forth, left behind, that's what you see. So, the same symbol, the same term, and so forth. That's also very important because Chama, chamya, talking about black charcoal in the Akan language, and Chama and Kama, Kemet, of course, represented by the black burning piece of charcoal, therefore burning and therefore black. Chama is not only talking about charcoal in Akan culture, it's also a name. It's a name associated with deity, male and female. It's also a name of a people, a name of a land, a name of a country, a name of a nation. So we talked about the title of the show, Akwamu, Gyaman, and the origin and meaning of the name Kemet. The Jamai people. Chama is the name of the people. Omain means nation. The Chama, mine, or the Jamai, the Chama nation, the Jam people. Who are the Jam people? The Chama people. We talked about Akwamu, one of the large Akan empires that came into prominence 500 years ago. Some of the Akwamu people separated from the larger group, and first they went into a specific region, towards Ivory Coast, Cote d'Ivoire, and so forth, and then later on they coalesced. There's a long history and so forth, and they began to identify themselves as a group as Chama people. If you look at the colonial borders that are artificial, of course, that divide up Ghana from Ivory Coast, prior to those borders, of course, that was the same landmass. So because the Chama people migrated towards northeastern Ghana, which is also towards, northwestern Ghana, which is northeastern Ivory Coast, because of the artificial borders, the Jama people, or the Jama folk, the Jama people, the Jama nation, was separated. So you have quote-unquote British Gyaman and French Gyaman. Once Ivory Coast was taken over by the French, and the region which is now Ghana was taken over by the British, you have British Gyaman, you had French Gyaman, and later on today you have Gyaman people in Ghana, you have Gyaman people in Ivory Coast. Now, these are the people who separated from the larger group. Ja, meaning to leave, to forsake, to separate, to leave behind. Jama people. But they're also talking about that fire, the fire within. Let's look at cosmologically, what is that talking about? If you look at the days of the week in the Akan tradition, each one of the days of the week, the 7-day week, of course, which we founded thousands of years ago, is governed by one of the solar, lunar, or planetary bodies. The solar, lunar, and planetary bodies are animated by deities, abosom. So on Sunday you have Awusi and Esi, which is Alsar and Alset, operating in connection with the sun and operating in connection with Ra and Ra'et. On Monday, the day of the moon, you have Adjo and Adjua, which is Alsar and Alset operating through the moon. So you have Alsar utilizing the moon as the transmitter of that cool magnetic energy on Monday, but then Alsar and Alset as Awusi and Esi operating through the sun in connection with Ra and Ra'et on Sunday. Then on Tuesday, it's Ben Nada or Abinada, the so-called planet known Mars, called Benna, male, Abinna, female, and the deities that govern that planet is Herubehudet, Herubedeti, Herubedat, and Sechima Sekhmet. They are called Benna and Abinna and Akan, governing the fire planet. Sometimes that planet takes on a reddish hue, planet of fire, war, hot metal. This is why they say Benna, the divinity Benna, Herubedat. Herubenna is the divinity of hot metal, war, purifier, enforcer of divine order. Abena or Sekhmet, Chama is the female enforceress of divine order, the divine warrioress. They govern the immune and lymphatic systems within the great divine body of the Supreme Being. They govern the immune and lymphatic systems within the bodies of Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit people. So people who are born on their day, male or female, if you're born on Benna Da, the day Da of the divinity Benna, then you're given the Kradim soul name Kwa Benna. So if you hear somebody named Kwa Benna, that means he's a child of Benna because he was born on Benna's day. He was born on Benna's day because that's an indication that before he was sent into the womb, he was assigned to the deity Benna in the spirit realm by the Supreme Being. And therefore, the divinities made sure that he would be born on that day to signal to the entire community that, hey, he was born on Benna Tuesday, Benna's day. That's because he was associated with Benna before he got into the womb, and that was a sign to us that that's who he was associated with and assigned to. So the child is called Kwa Benna, a servant or subject of Benna. And a female born on Benada or Abenada is called Abena or Abenaba or Abenawa, child of the female divinity Abena or Sekhmet. And they have those characteristics. And the same is true with all the different days of the week. Awukuda, Wednesday, Kweko Nansi, and Akua. People call Kweko and Akua. If you're born on Thursday, Yao, Ya, and Abba, and Kwao. So forth. If you're born on Friday, Fida, Kofi, and Afia or Afua. Born on Saturday, Kwame, Kwame, Kwamena, Ama, Amemeniwa, and so forth. Each day of the week, governed by a solar, lunar, planetary body. And those solar, lunar, planetary bodies are governed by different forces in nature. What's critical is Tuesday, Benada, Abenada, governed by the divinity Benna and Abena, those two divinities. But all of them have praise names. All of them have Mrane. Praise name of the divinities is also passed on to the people who are born on the days of the divinity. So, for example, someone born on Sunday be Akwesi, or Kwesi. One of the praise names of Akwesi, Akwa, Asi, a servant of Asi, a servant of Awusi, meaning a servant of Awusir, a servant of Asa. Any person born on Sunday named Kwesi, Kwa, Asi is Kwa, a subject or servant of Asi or Awusi, a servant of Awusi or Asa. One of the praise names of a Sunday-born male is Obwe Kwai, which means someone who's the opener of the road, opener of the pathway, also called Bodria, meaning a born leader. These are praise names of the divinity first and foremost, as we call him in Akan. He's also called Awisi or Asi, opener of the road, meaning he was the first of the Westerners. He's Kanti Amenti, the first of the Westerners, the first one to, quote-unquote, go through the transition of death and resurrection and lead us to that pathway of the honored ancestors, the Nana, and so forth, the Aku. So, he was the first of the Westerners. He opened that pathway and showed us the way to achieve that level of spiritually cultivated ancestor or ancestress in the spirit realm. Obwe Kwine, opener of the way. At the same time, he's Bodria, which means a born leader. What it really means is the tail of the animal. Abwa means animal. Dria, Bodria, means the tail of the animal. That represents rulership. So when you see the kings and queen mothers in all over Afuraitkaitnit, and they have a cow's tail, and they're whipping the cow's tail as they walk by as a symbol of sovereignty. The Bodria, the animal's tail, but it also represents born leader, sovereignty and so forth, rulership. Of course, you see in ancient Kemet the king wearing the tail of the bull hanging down from his waist and so forth behind him. You see the hek and the nkaka or nchacha, which is the crook on one hand, the shepherd's crook, and then the flail, which is representative of that animal's tail that we whip still today. We use these, they'll call it a fly whisk, but that's really an animal's tail. Bodria, the animal's tail, representing born leader, rulership, and so forth. So that's a praise name for a Sunday form. Bodria, another praise name is Obriaquine. So all of the different divinities have those praise names connected to the days of the week, and the children of them have these praise names. The praise name of people born on Benada or Abenada, the male version is Jam or Ojam, Cham, which is Kam, and then the female is Jama, which is simply the feminine suffix, the two A's added at the end. So Cham and Chama or Kam and Kama, it's talking about the ones who are born on Tuesday, the ones who have that fire within. Cham meaning fire, or Mu meaning within. So they are literally named Cham and Chama, Kam and Kama, the fire within. This is the name of the divinity. It's associated, of course, with the fire within the coal that's burning within. The same name of the country of ancient Kemet. When you have the fertile black land, it's fertile because it has fire within it, or else it would just be barren land. Because the fire of Ra and Ra'at, the divine spirit, divine living energy is circulating through that black land. It makes it fertile and therefore ready for crops to be, seeds to be planted in so that crops can develop. So that fertile land is the black land with the fire moving through it, the fire within it. When you see the black land and the fire moving through it, the energy of Ra and Ra'at is the same as the black coal with the fire moving through it. So when you see the coal, you may just see some coal. But when you get near it and you feel the heat, you know there's something happening inside the coal. When you see that black land, you know there's fertility because the energy of Ra and Ra'at is moving through it. All of that is connected cosmologically. So when you have the Gyaman people who separated from the larger Akan group and then begin to call themselves Kama or Chama, the Chama people or Kama people, they have distinctive cultural motifs that they become known for. They're the ones who brought forth prominently the kente cloth, the various colors of kente cloth and so forth. Very ornate. They're the ones who brought forth the Adinkra symbols in a prominent manner. Very ornate. The same Adinkra symbols you will find in ancient Kemet. The Adinkra symbols like Sankofa and Nyamedria and these different ones, you will find these Adinkra symbols in the medutu of ancient Kemet. So you have the Chama people or the Kama people coming out of the Kan, the larger Kan group, the Akwamu Akan group. Just like in ancient times, you have the Akan people, the Kanat people, the Nubian people, and out of them come the Kama people of ancient Kemet. And when they move further north and establish civilization, some of what they're doing is more ornate and quote-unquote flashy and so forth than what was happening in Nubia. In the same fashion, when we get to the west, the exact same process takes place. The larger Akan group has a smaller group that comes out of them who call themselves Kama or Chama, and they're the ones who manifest that more ornate culture of the kente cloth and the flashy, motifs and so forth, and Adinkra symbols, a great deal of gold and everything else. And you will see them in Ghana, but you'll also see them in Ivory Coast. One of their groups in Ivory Coast, subgroups, are called the Ebrie people. Ebrie comes from the root Bri, which means black or dark. Their neighbors began to call them Ebrie, but they were using it in a negative connotation, talking about black or dark, like Bri, as in Bri Fo, or Bri Fo, meaning someone who is unusually powerful because they're black or dark. They also use Bri as if you get some dirt on you, get some soil on you, and your clothes get dirty. So you can say something is black because it got dirty, or something is black because it's powerful. If you get some dirt on you and you say, oh, I got some black stuff on me, meaning I'm dirty or soiled, then this is the negative connotation that their neighbors began to call them. The Akan neighbors, but they started calling them Ebrie, meaning black or soiled, but in reality, Bri, black or dark, means power and so forth in the Akan language. But you can misuse it as a negative connotation if you like. Just like soil is soil, which is necessary for growth, development, crops, and everything else. But then you can say, my clothes have been soiled, meaning they've gotten dirty. Dirt can be soil, which is necessary for our lives, but then dirt can be, you got dirty. In the same way, Bri, meaning black, deals with power. Then Bri can also mean black in the sense of you got soil. So there are people call them that. But the original name of the Ebriye people, which they will tell people, is Chama. But they spell it a couple of different ways. And they pronounce it a couple of different ways because they're part of the larger Chama group, the Jamama people, Jamama folk, Jamama nation. They say Chama, and they'll spell it with a K-Y, Chama. Sometimes they spell it with a T-C-H-A-M-A, Chama. And sometimes they spell it with a K-A-M-A, Kama, or C-A-M-A, Kama. So Chama and Kama is the same pronunciation. They are interchangeable from the larger Kama group. This is the Kama people, the Kama or Kemet people, the people with the fire, Cha, Mu within, Chamu, Kamu, Kam. This is where it comes from. So what we have is the actual term in both languages. In ancient Kemet and in Akan, we have the combination of the Cha and the Mu in both languages with the same meaning. We have the actual symbolism, which is reality of the burning piece of charcoal with the fire within in both languages with the same name. We have the name of the people themselves, that they call themselves that, Chama people, the same name. And of course we have the Chama, which is associated with the name of a fiery divinities of the planet Benna and Abena. Their praise names is Jam for the male, Chama for the female, talking about the nature of the energy complex, the fire burning within, burning inside. It's all connected. This is part of a living culture. The Chama people, just like the Khan, we talk about Akan people migrating from ancient Kanat, Nubia, to the western part of the continent and reestablishing the empire of Kanat or empire of Ghana, then eventually moving towards the forest belt and reestablishing Akana or Akan civilization in the same fashion, out of the same Akan people, the Chama or Kama, Kamat people, Kemet people come out of that and continue the culture. We did the exact same thing in the western part of the continent that we did in the eastern part of the continent. Unbroken, unchanged over thousands of years, worshiping the same deities, utilizing the same terms, getting possessed by the same divinities, identifying ourselves by the exact same name, and utilizing the same symbolism with the charcoal with the exact same name, the same power. So it's very simple to understand when you're actually engaged in the culture. So when we tie that back once again to the symbol of the crocodile once again. Now we can even reincorporate that and understand that at an even more, a deeper level. To bring to an end, for force sake, but also to bring to an end. And let's pull up real quick just a couple of more things. When you look at the term Kam in ancient Kemet, in the hieroglyphic dictionaries and so forth, you have Kam meaning black, talking about that which is burning and so forth. You have Kam, Kamet, which is black, heat, burning, fire, and all of that. Then the other variation, Kam, meaning black, to burn, blacken, is talking about blacken with the burning piece of charcoal, because it's talking about black in the sense, why is it black? Because you have the burning piece of charcoal there, it's being burned, something is burning. Not just a flame, just out there, just a flame, but something is actually being burned. And when it's being burned or flamed or cooked, so to speak, then it becomes black, and this is the association with Kam, meaning black, but also showing the burning piece of charcoal. When you look at that term, you'll see Kam meaning black. You also see Kam also meaning to bring an end to something, completion. Even, in fact, we're going to scroll up real quick. You have Kam meaning black. You have Kam meaning complete, to bring an end to, and so forth. And then you also have sometimes double, to vanish, to pass away, to disappear, to decay. Kam, that means bringing to an end. Once the burning is complete, once you've burned away all of the, portions of the corruptible elements, then all of that is burned away, and what's left over is the black piece of charcoal. That's what's left to leave or forsake. In ancient Kemet, Cha, meaning to leave or forsake. In Akan, Cha, meaning fire. In ancient Kemet, Cha, meaning fire. In Akan, same thing. Then this is why you have Kam or Cham, meaning to vanish, pass, disappear, decay, talking about the fiery things as being fired, burned, and so forth. But then you also have Cham and Akan, meaning to leave in or commit to the care of and trust. Chamu, to depart this life, expire, also to give up the ghost. This is why in Kemet, Kam, to vanish, to pass away, to disappear. In Kemet, Cham, to departfuration. Again, it's talking about the same thing. So to bring to an end, to complete the process. When you finish that burning process, you burned away the corruptible matter. What's left is the final product, bringing it to an end. At the same time, the other definition is talking about a vine, a creeping plant, and so forth. So you'll see in the medutu, you'll see kam, meaning a vine, kam in art means a vineyard. So kam or kama, kamu, meaning a vine, which is a creeping plant. You look in Akan, ajamu means a thick, climbing plant. Three basic definitions of kam in Kemet. Kam meaning black, burned, black, and so forth, and talking about black in the sense of something being burned, fire within, kamu. It also means to bring to an end, completion. It also means a vine, creeping plant, and so forth. In Akan, you have kamu, chamu, the fire within, represented by literally meaning charcoal, anthracite, black coal, and so forth. It also means the fire within. It also means to expire. It also means a creeping, climbing plant. The same three definitions in both languages with the same vocalizations, with the proper vocalizations of the Akan, but also associated, of course, with the black charcoal, the name of the people, the name of the nation, the name of the land. The Jama land, the Jama people, the Jama nation as a collective. It's the same Kama people, Kama land or black land, burned land, and so forth, and Kama nation as a collective, as a political entity. Now, when we look at to bring to an end, once we said it again, and you see the tail of the crocodile, that's the end of the body from front to back, and then you see the crocodile's paw, which is the end of the entity from top to bottom. It's at the bottom or the end and so forth. And we talked about earlier how the crocodile taking on that greenish metallic black skin color connected with the Kam or Alsar, the great black one, Watch or Alsar, the great green one. Once the head of the crocodile rises up out of the primordial waters, he lives in water. Odinchim datin siomu nanso ahomi inframa. The crocodile lives in water but breathes air, not water. So you see the head of the crocodile. Sometimes the tail of the crocodile rise up out of the water like a black mound rising up. He is Kam in that sense. He's that black mound rising up. And he's a fiery force in that water. He's a divine killer in that regard. But he also carries the body of the mummified Alsar out of the water to safety and dryness and so forth. So he's also carrying the Kam or the black one out of the water. That is the association with crocodile paw and the crocodile's tail, the end, Kam, completion, Kam, end, Kam, completion, Kam with the tail as well as the paw, but also the rising up of the Kam, the black landmass. When Alsar's physical body, as manifest on the topography of planet Earth, is the black soil substance, whereas Set is the red soil, whether it's red clay or the desert. Set, the river waters, Nebuchadnezzar, the rain waters, they are children of Geb and Nut. Earth crust is Geb, and sky, of course, the earth mothers are Asaset Nebuchadnezzar and Asaset Nebuchadnezzar, the wives of Atem and Kepra. We're not talking about Aset, but Asase, Nebedetepet, and Asase Nebetpet. They're called Asase Afur and Asase Yah, the two earth mother divinities in Akan that we still worship today. They're called Asase Nebedetepet and Asase Nebetpet in ancient Kemet, wives of Atem and Kepra. In Akan culture, Atem is Udomankoma, and Kepra is Tredriampong. Kepra, one of his titles is Chere Ra, and we call him Chere Ria in Akan. So, we deal with that. But they're the two earth mother divinities, Asase Nebedetepet and Asase Nebetpet. Asase Nebedetepet gave birth as the mother of Shu and Tefnut. She's the wife of Atem, and together they give birth as the mother and father of Shu and Tefnut, and Shu and Tefnut give birth to Geb and Nut. Geb is the earth's crust. Nut, of course, is that region of the sky, and the earth and the sky give birth to the black soil, red soil, Alsar, Set, river waters, rain waters, Aset, and Nebethet. So, this is what we're dealing with. So when you see Alsar rising up through the black soil, once the waters begin to recede, after the inundation every year, you see the black mound rising up. When you see the crocodile and the head coming out of the water, you see the black mound, the blackish greenish body of that animal rising up out of the water. He's calm as well. So this is why you can use the crocodile's tail and the paw, meaning to come to an end, completion, the end, as well as calm, representing calm, with, the black piece of charcoal as well. So all of that information, with much more detail, and of course all of the medutu, the hieroglyphs and so forth, will be in this article that we will release this week. It's going to be part of a larger work, but we're going to just release the article portion first, just so you can have the information and share that and so forth. But we just wanted to go through that detailed information. If someone has a question or a comment on the phone line, you can hit the number 1 so that we can see that your hand is raised. If you have a question or a comment in the chat room, you must log in as a user with the username in order to interact in the chat room. So we're going to look through chat room real quick, make sure we didn't miss anything. We saw some comments there. Just want to make sure we didn't miss any questions. Give me a second. Okay, as we look through that, for the people who came in a little bit later, we made a couple of announcements. We will be having our Kokobo movement presentation on November 15th in Washington, D.C. Check our Kokobo page for that information, and we will put the link to the Kokobo page. Of course, our book, Kokobo, is the first volume dealing with dissexuality. Homosexuality was never accepted in ancient Kemet. So we prove through the text of the contendings of Heru and Set, we call the dating of the contendings of Heru and Set. Dissexuality, homosexuality was never accepted in Kemet. We give the proper translations proving that that text has nothing to do in reality with the promotion of dissexuality or homosexuality. We show the text from Ni Ankh Khnum and Khnum Hetep, the identical twins that the whites and their offspring deliberately lie about and try to promote as the first quote-unquote same-sex couple, which in reality they had wives and children, and they were identical twins, and their name reflects that. The deity that they're connected with, the conjoiner Kunwimu or Khnum, reflects that. Even Ni Ankh Khnum being the firstborn and Khnum Hetep being the secondborn, based on the cosmology, knowing the birth order of the twins. When you understand the cosmology, we go into detail about that. We show the divine prohibition against dissexuality, homosexuality in the Runu Pert Emheru, the so-called Book of Coming Forth by Day, misnomer, the Book of the Dead. We show that specific text proving that that's a divine prohibition, divine restriction, Echiwadie, divinely hated by the divinity, by the supreme being. So we show that in that particular text, and then we also show in the maxims of the Ta Hetep, the prepubescent sexual taboo. So that specific instruction of the Ta Hetep, when it's an instruction against prepubescent sexual activity with a prepubescent female, The whites and their offspring deliberately lie about that specific text. They deliberately mistranslate that specific text and try to say it has to do with two males getting together and why they shouldn't just get together in hiding. They should get together out in the open and all this other nonsense. In reality, it's a text talking about the prohibition, divine restriction against prepubescent or sexual activity with a prepubescent female, so a female who has not gone through her rites of passage and become a woman yet. So those 4 different articles are all together in one volume called Kokobo, which actually means warning in the Akan language. We're going to do a presentation on that and go dissect that information, but we're also going to talk about eradicating bisexuality, homosexuality from the Afuraitkaitnit community through ancestral religion. And of course, many people have done that, and any of our people can do that immediately, overnight, can get rid of those perverse urges that are sometimes forced on our people, not only through propaganda, through the media, through brainwashing, through schools, through churches, through magazines, through hip-hop, so-called hip-hop, through songs, and through everything else. The whites and their offspring are constantly promoting that nonsense, constantly floating these ideas and suggestions under songs and under the images of movies and slowing them down and speeding them up and, ensconcing these messages into things that people don't even realize consciously that they're doing. But at the same time, you have perverse, discarnate spirits of relatives and non-relatives who were perverts when they were alive. When they died, their spirits were still and are still perverted, discordant spirits. And if we do not repel them ritually, then they can have influence by making suggestions or putting pressure spiritually, pushing a child, pushing an adult towards someone of the same sex. So the person has a negative feeling when they get towards someone of the opposite sex, and they feel a push, literally, a magnetic push and pull towards somebody of the same sex. And it's simply this discarnate spirit who's a pervert, who was a child molester while they were alive, and they're still pushing the person in that direction. When you repel those perverse spirits by connecting with your own direct blood ancestresses and ancestors, those urges are eliminated because they were never your urges from the beginning. And of course, people can deal with their direct blood ancestresses and ancestors on their own immediately. They don't need counseling or anything like that. They can go directly to their people. So this sexuality, homosexuality, of course, can be eradicated and is being eradicated. And when people embrace ancestral religion, they can do that and are doing that. So we're going to go into detail about that. Part of that Kokobo movement, of course, the event is free, but we will also be giving away a free copy of Kokobo book to everyone who comes to the event. So the event is free. When you come to the event, you'll receive a free copy of the softcover version of the book. Everybody who comes, and we do that whenever we have a presentation, we give away one of our books for free. We have 17 books published to date. All of the ebook versions of our books are already free, so you can access them at any time from our publications page. But we also sell the softcover version. So if you would like to support this Kokobo movement, any purchase of one or more of our books is assisting us into being able to give away some of the books for free. We recognize that all of our people, young and old, adults, children, males and females, need this Kokobo book. This is the only book out talking about this sexuality never being accepted in our ancient Afuraitkaitnit culture, improving that, but also in our culture today. It is a manual on how to overcome these perverse cultural suggestions by the whites and their offspring, showing the foundation, showing the cosmological foundation, and gets people grounded in our cosmology, in our culture, and they can easily repel the propaganda put forward by the whites and their offspring. The vast majority of our people who engage in that perversity, 90+%, suffer from some form of domestic abuse, intergenerational trauma, transcarnational trauma, child molestation, abuse, perversity, torture, whatever it is. That's the reason they moved in that direction. They were pushed in that direction. And of course, that can be overcome, just like drug addiction is overcome through ancestral religion. Domestic abuse, suffering the negative effects of domestic abuse can be overcome through, and is overcome through ancestral religion and so forth. Everything we need to overcome any obstacle that confronts us and any perceived obstacle that we're confronted with, everything we need is within our own culture. We do not need to go outside of our culture, go into some cracker pseudo-spiritualist to try to deal with our problems, or some pseudo-psychologist, as we did a broadcast talking about therapists or the rapist. Afurakani, Afuraitkaitnit, ancestral religion versus psychology. So everything we need to overcome all of our problems, so-called obstacles, is within our culture. So we're dealing with that. We will have, this is the first workshop based on that. We will have them in different parts of the country, different parts of the world, and so forth. Everywhere we go, we want to give away a free copy of that book so our people are grounded in the reality, cosmologically, spiritually, that this sexuality is insane, perverse. It is not acceptable on any level. There's no, well, you live your life and I live, none of that. We're telling reality, we're telling truth, and we're crushing these criminals. We're trying to force this perversity on our people. So, if you'd like to support that effort, of course, any purchase of one or more of our books, it assists us in that fashion. All of our books range between $8 and $11. And if you order, we have a new option. As a matter of fact, the first 5 books is 40% off. So you get the first, the first 5 books, 20% off. So the price is actually $40. So the first 5 books in our 17-book set is that critical foundational information, Kukutuntun, the ancestral jurisdiction, Uvenshang, the ancestral summons, the Okra complex, the soul of AKANFO, talking about the nature of the Ka, and the Ka is the soul, the divine consciousness, the Okra, the Ori Inu, and so forth. Afuraitkaitnit, the origin of the term Africa, where we prove that conclusively, and Maranechi, divine law, love, and divine hate, 2 poles of divine order. So those first 5 books, they range between $8 and $11. They typically will be like $50 total, but we have a 20% off sale, so they will be $40 for the first 5 books. You'll see that deal on the NHOMA page, and we'll put the link in the chat room for the NHOMA page, our publications page. But then any order of 10 books or more is automatically 30% off. So the first 10 books, for example, is $66. The first 5 is $40. You get 5 books for $40, 10 books for $66, and then, of course, you can get 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, or you can order 1 book or whatever. 1 book ranges between $8 and $11, depending on the book. So any order, of course, it's a benefit for you to receive the information, but at the same time, it allows us to give away, not only have these free seminars in different cities, but also to give away free copies of the book. And every child, every adult will have this book, Crocodile, proving that this sexuality, homosexuality, was never accepted in ancient Kemet. It's not acceptable in any aspect of our culture. In reality, it's against divine order. And it can be overcome through ancestral religion. So that's what we're dealing with. All right, I'm going to check the chat room once again. And again, if you have any questions or comments on the phone line, hit the number 1. And we're just scrolling through here in the chat room to make sure we didn't miss anything. And I saw a couple of statements here. All right. Okay, so it looks like we didn't miss any questions. So, all right, so we can actually end the broadcast here. We will be back on tomorrow for Ujira purification. We're going to have some more detailed information. We'll be releasing that event notification very soon. If you have any questions or comments about the Kokobo event, we just did an event notification for that, and we released it today. So you can see that on Facebook. We also have it on the Name site, and of course on our channel here, Blog Talk Radio channel. So please go to that, share the videos. We did a couple of broadcasts on the Kokobo movement on Blog Talk Radio in the past, as well as we did a broadcast where we dissected our book. Share that information, share the site. we also have a Cocoa Ball, Eradicating Bisexuality, Homosexuality page on Facebook. So you can share that as well, share the information. If you have any questions or comments about that information or any of the other, you can contact us on Facebook. We're Kwesi Akan on Facebook, as well as Ojidafo and Afuraitkaitnit. Ojidafo on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Subscribe to us on YouTube so you can get every new video that comes out. You'll be alerted. And follow us on this Blog Talk Radio channel page. Click the follow button, and that way every time we send out new broadcasts, or we send out a new video, or we send out a new book, new publications will be coming out, you'll automatically be updated for all of that information. All right. So, again, Yedase, we thank you for tuning in to the broadcast, and Yebeshia Bio, we will meet again.